Oligopoly in 15 minutes or less. And don't forget to answer the questions on the description to test your knowledge. So, oligopoly is a group of firms that dominate an industry. And we tend to have examples of this when there's a group of firms dominating the industry, like in the supermarket industry. We have Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda. When we look at the petrol industry, when we look at what other industry? The banking industry, for example. So we have a few firms dominating the market. Within oligopoly, we also need to understand market concentration ratio. So in a perfectly competitive market, firms have a very small concentration ratio, whereas in a monopoly, they'll have a huge, high concentration ratio. So what is the concentration ratio? Well, that is out of the total, or the total possible sales. How many sales is that firm doing? So you calculate it by dividing sales of a firm divided by sales in the industry. We want to know, out of the total possible sales in this industry, how many sales is our firm doing? So we divide total sales of firm divided by total sales in the industry times 100, and that'll tell us our concentration ratio. How much of the market do we own? It's almost like calculating the market share. So that's the concentration ratio. Now, again, for oligopoly, one of the key things to understand is collusion and competition. What do we mean by collusion? Collusion, we can have two types. One is overt, and the other one is tacit. So an overt collusion is an explicit collusion. This is when two firms, they meet together in a room, like the CEO of Coca-Cola and the CEO of Pepsi. They meet and they agree on price and quantity. By doing so, they can control the market. That will be an explicit collusion. That will be an overt collusion. In the United States, in Europe, that is prohibited. So we cannot have an overt collusion. However, we can have a tacit collusion. Tacit collusion is when they don't meet in secret. However, the way they communicate would be by sending messages on the media. So, for example, Pepsi sees that Coca-Cola is raising their prices. So Pepsi will then raise their prices as well. So they're I guess they're colluding, but tacitly. It's not like they're meeting in private to do so. So those are the two different types of collusion. Now, why is this important? Because when we're looking at an oligopoly, there's something called interdependence. So that means that what one firm does affects the industry and affects other firms. If we look at our demand curve for a perfectly competitive market, for a firm, the demand curve is horizontal, it's perfectly elastic. Because no matter how much that firm produces, it's never going to affect the market. However, when we're looking at an oligopoly, it does have an effect in the market. So hence they're interdependent. Then in oligopolies, we need to also understand competition. So competition. There's different types of competition. So we can have a price war. If Pepsi starts lowering their prices to sell more, then Coca-Cola will also start lowering their prices, and then they'll enter a price war. So that's one type of competition that we can see in an oligopoly, potentially turning it more and more competitive. Another type of competition we can see is competition by limit pricing. Yes, so limit pricing is when they'll figure out the highest possible price that doesn't attract new firms entering the market. So they'll charge a high price, but not so high that it attracts other businesses into the market, to avoid an excess of supply. Because if there's more supply, then the quantity will increase and the price by default will reduce. So to avoid that, they have limit pricing. Then another form of competition is the favorite one, it's the product differentiation. So you have all these varieties of cereals, you have drinks with vitamins, you have drinks that are fizzy, flat, you have Fiji water, you have water from Highland Springs, you have an infinity of varieties, organic, etc. So product differentiation. So those are the different ways in which firms can compete. So again, three main forms of competition: price competition, limit pricing, and product differentiation in an oligopoly. Then we also have to understand something called the Nash theory, which is, he came up with something called game theory. Now, game theory, I guess the best way to explain this over a story. So imagine two people rob a bank and they get caught. So let's do a matrix. So we have person A and person B. And they both have two options when they get caught. One is to not say anything, to say, no, it wasn't me. So they say, nope, it wasn't us. And the other one, it was, yes, it was us. So they both have these options: no and yes. So if both say, no, it wasn't us. Oh, sorry, I forgot something. Imagine when they catch them, they put them in separate rooms. So if they put them in separate rooms and they both say, no, it wasn't us, then they both go free because they have no proof that it was them. However, if one person says yes, but the other one says no, then the police will, as a reward, it will lower the sentence of the person that said yes. So you could say that he could almost go free, whereas the other one will have to do a full sentence. So B will go in jail. And the same thing will happen for B. If he says that it was him, then he'll go for free, but his accomplice, he'll go to jail. And then we have a final option, which is they both say yes, they committed the crime, and they both go to jail. So that's the principle of game theory. Game theory is relevant because you want to anticipate what your competitor is going to do. In this instance, A and B, they both rob the bank, but then they're caught and they're put in separate rooms, but yet they don't have any evidence on them. So here, the policeman asks them the question, right? So if both trust each other, they both say, no, I didn't do it, he didn't do it, and they both go free. But if they don't trust each other, then they might fall for some sort of incentive. The police might say, hey, look, if you agree to this, then we will let you go free, but we will put the other one in jail. So they say the same thing to both. So if they both agree, guess what? Oof, actually no, we got evidence on both, so they both go to jail. However, if only one of them agrees, then that person goes free and the other one stays in jail. So it's almost about the level of trust they have. And this happens in business. They could agree tacitly and don't compete in price, or they might mistrust each other and they start competing in price, and so hence they both end up not having any profit. Just think about it. If they both keep the price and don't lower it, then they both win. However, if one lowers the price, he will win and the other one will lose. But if both lose the price because they enter a price competition, then they both will lose. And that drives us to our kinked demand curve. So let's have a look. Have our price, we have our quantity, have our demand curve, like that, and then it goes down like that. Why does it do that? It does so because it is, this is our marginal revenue. It does so because the first part is elastic. Why is it elastic? Because imagine the current price is here. Price one. That's the going price. I don't know. Maybe it's £5. So at £5, that's the going market price. If they charge more than £5, then consumers are going to go somewhere else because there are other options. So hence, if they put the price up, it's elastic. So they're going to go somewhere else. Consumers are not going to buy from them. So they're unlikely to put the price up. If they reduce the price in the short term, yes, they might win more consumers, but that will drive other businesses to also start lowering their prices. So hence, they will all start lowering their prices, and overall, everybody will lose. So that's what we mean by from this equilibrium point upwards, the price is elastic. You can see it's quite flat. So a tiny increase in price means like a lot of people are not going to want to buy it. Whereas from here onwards, it's inelastic. That means that a small decrease in price is not going to get them that much benefit. They're not going to get a lot more customers by decreasing the price. Why? Because everybody else is going to do the same. So hence they end up not gaining more revenue than they expected. So that's kind of our line for the kinked demand curve. You can see the kink there. We have also this marginal revenue. The marginal revenue is the extra revenue made from an additional sale. And you can see it diverts from the demand curve. The same way a normal marginal revenue curve will divert. You have a straight line down here, and that's because at this point we have the main benefit of firms in this scenario will be to reduce their average costs. So we have marginal costs, we have marginal cost 2, marginal cost 1. Firms will try and reduce their marginal cost. Ideally, that'll be a way of making some extra revenue, because trying to control the quantity is not going to have an effect, and neither controlling the changing the price at which they sell the product. So that's why it's known that in an oligopoly, prices are quite sticky. So if you look at quite a lot of products that are sold by, let's say, soft drinks, they tend to stay at the same price. There's not a big swing between prices, because if they start competing in price, they will all lose. On the other hand, if they put the price higher, it's going to be difficult for them to do so because there are alternatives. Unless, of course, we start thinking of some product differentiation. But theoretically speaking, the prices are sticky when we're looking at an oligopoly, and they tend to stick because if they increase the price, consumers are going to go elsewhere. And if they reduce the price, we're going to start a price competition, and everybody's going to lose. And that is the kinked demand curve. Something else that's quite interesting with an oligopoly will be a cartel. So let's look at a cartel quickly within the last minute or 2 minutes that I have. So let's erase our game theory matrix here, and let's look at what will happen if we have a cartel. So we have our demand curve. This is our marginal revenue. We have our average cost. We have our marginal cost hitting at the lowest point of our average cost curve, like that. Now, for this to work, the firms in the oligopoly need to work together. And when they work together, they'll figure out the point where the marginal revenue from all of them equals the marginal cost. So hence, we're looking at the profit maximizing rule. Marginal cost equals marginal revenue. So at that point, the selling price will create the biggest difference between the cost of production and the selling price. So there'll be profit maximizing. So all that will be profit. But that only happens if they work together. But the problem is that there's more than one firm there. So if they see a high price, they might decide, well, maybe I'm going to produce a little bit more. And the reason being is because they're not at the lowest point of their average cost curve, and the price is up there. So they might think, hey, whilst the rest are making only 10 units, I want to make 12 or 15 so that I can get more of that profit. And hence, by doing that, if they start cheating and producing more than they should, then the price overall is going to decrease because there'll be an increase in supply. So if they're going to do a cartel, which means work all together, then there needs to be a lot of control to make sure that there's not too much quantity available. And that is oligopoly. Answer the questions below.